I got a question. Who are your childhood influences? Before y'all answer that, I want you to really think about that, right? Because in this video, I'm gonna tell you guys who my 3 childhood influences are, what inspired, like you know, what about them influenced me, and how do those same lessons I learned from them still impact me today. Stay tuned. Coming in at number 3 is, to no one's surprise, Steve Smith. Steve Smith was the first football player that I saw that made me think, oh, you can actually play football. You got a real chance to play football. Because up until I saw Steve Smith, playing football was just a hobby, something I liked to do, something I enjoyed doing. I wasn't that good at because I didn't think, hey, I only thought I can get but so good. I didn't think I really had a ceiling worth exploring in football. So when I would play, I play with my friends, and I'm like, I'm just going to try, and that's about it. I'm going to try. I'm too small. I'm not really faster than guys, so I really don't have a chance, but I'm just going to have some fun with it. And then one day, I started to get a little bit better at football. I felt myself getting better, although I didn't know I could. And me and my homie were playing Madden. And as we're playing Madden, I'm trying to find a team to play with. I love cats. So I'm like, I play with the Bengals. I love orange, and they're orange. And then I'm like, I don't know. And then I picked the Panthers. And I'm like, okay, let's see what's up. And I'm playing with them. And my homie said, B, why aren't you throwing it to Steve Smith? He's short and fast like you. I said, Steve Smith. And after he told me that, man, I went to YouTube and I went on this YouTube binge of Steve Smith highlights. It completely changed my life. Because normally when you see a player who's short, they play the game short, right? They normally just rely strictly on speed. They rely strictly on being quicker than everyone else. And while Steve Smith presented a lot of that, he was faster than most, quicker than everyone else, and faster than 99% of the league at the time. He was also aggressive. I watched him literally take dudes' souls on the field, and I wanted to be that. And this was also the first time I seen a player that looked like me in retrospect. Now, obviously, he's taller than me, and we don't physically look alike. But when he stands amongst those other players, he's clearly the shortest guy on the field. And when I stood amongst other guys, I was always the shortest guy on the field. And so I was inspired. Like, I felt like there was nothing I couldn't do. And I immediately after that, somehow, somewhere, I immediately got a little bit faster. I started jumping a little bit higher. I got a little more explosive. I started working towards sports. Like, I would train to get better at the sport. I would sneak outside late because my dad didn't believe in me playing ball, and train by myself. And I just have become so inspired and so motivated. And I had gotten exponentially better in a very short period of time. There was another element to Steve that I love outside of the field, right? He was a hard worker. He was a great player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. But Steve Smith also got married while he was in college. Him and his wife had 3 or 4 at the time. I think they had 3 kids at the time. And they've been married the entire time, right? He's been open and saying that it hasn't been easy, but they've been married, right? And that was always something I wanted. He also was, strictly against drinking, strictly against drugs. And I was like, yo, like, that lifestyle is the one I've always wanted. I don't want to smoke. I don't want to drink. And he makes it look cool. Like, I don't feel bad because I'm the one guy who doesn't ever want to do that. And so Steve inspired me not only to be a great player on the field, but to stand on my own too and be like, nah, this is what I stand for. I'm not effing with none of that. Coming in at number 2, Beverly Cleary, one of my favorite authors of all time. Definitely my favorite childhood author. And I was always a big reader. I was reading Dr. Seuss books. My dad, all of them. I read all those. I didn't really get too big on Harry Potter. That wasn't really my thing, even though I do admire the storyline. Didn't read too much into it. But Beverly Cleary's books, the Runaway Ralph series and all those books, that did it for me. And the way she inspired me was that it introduced me to a world that wasn't physically there. Like, reading her books allowed me to think that you can actually create your own world with your own characters, with their own faults, their own strengths, their own everything. You can create that. And it allowed me to really kind of dive deep into my mind and say, yo, I could really create the things that I enjoy. I can really create that. And it blew my mind at the time, but now that I'm older, it resonates even more. And just understanding how far writing can take you. You guys have heard my music. It's writing. I write that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I write those things. And also, reading her books was an escape. I'm from North Philly, bro. I'm from North Philly. So I'm from one of the roughest parts of the city. And when you're growing up in those environments with the things that had happened in the household, reading the book was one of my greatest escapes, man. And it allowed me to not only escape, but then escape into another world where those problems and those issues did not exist. So I'm very grateful to have came across her book series very early, and my mother influenced me to read. Like, she would always buy me books to read, and so I'm very grateful for that, man. So shout out to Miss Beverly Clearly. Rest in peace, actually. I think she died at 104. She lived a very long life. Coming in at number one is a two-part number one, I guess, is my mom and my dad. Both of them are not perfect. Neither one of them are perfect. Neither one of them are closer to perfect than the other. They're both very human people, very flawed people, but they gave me the necessary tools to survive and be out here on my own. Now, my dad taught me the importance of when you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. Now, life does happen and you can't always do things, but when you say you're going to do it, you got to do it. And you got to stand on business. You got to stand on principle. We not backing down from nobody. These rules, we not backing down. Those are the rules. You're not backing down. You got my name. You damn near got my face. You ain't backing. That's not how we doing it. You protect your loved ones. Your loved ones need to see you as a person who can protect them and help them. And while some of those methods can be harmful, the general premise of it and principles of it, yeah, that's what you need to learn as a young man. Another thing that my dad taught me was do not be afraid to speak your mind. Say how you feel and stand on what you say. Don't be scared. Be confident. Know you can do what you say you out there to do. Like, my dad was all about walking around with your chest out. Hey, I made mistakes. I effed up. So, and what? Do something about it. That was my dad. Like, that was my dad's mentality. And he wasn't perfect. He made a lot of mistakes by me, but he gave me some general principles and rules that will help me sustain throughout life. And he raised me and my little brother. We lived with him our whole life. I never lived with my mom, technically. At one point in time when I was going to Cheney University, I would commute from my mom's house, but I never actually just lived with my mom outright. So shout out to my pops, man. My pops was a legend, man. I miss him to this day. But my dad taught me a lot of valuable lessons, man. A lot of valuable principles that, if followed correctly, will help sustain you in life. My mom, on the other hand, really encouraged me to read and write. And once she discovered I had the acumen to be a writer, I had interest in writing, any book I asked for, she was getting it for me. My mom could be dead broke. She was going to find a way to get that book for me. And what I didn't realize is because she saw that potential in me to do those things. And so she would always help me out with that. My mom also taught me how to go get $1. Believe it or not, my mom taught me. My mom started her own contracting business, right? And she would hire people. I was one of the workers she would hire. I learned how to mix concrete. I learned how to paint. I learned how to do all kinds of stuff. I learned how to cut certain items. I learned how to measure certain things. My mom taught me all that stuff, right? There's pictures of me at 14, 15 years old working in the house that she lives in right now, which is crazy. And so my mom taught me those things. My mom also taught me the importance of taking risks. Like, if you're going to go do something great, you're going to take a risk, right? And the irony about my mom and my dad, for that matter, is that the principles they taught me were the principles I needed when they told me I couldn't do something or they didn't believe it was the best thing for me to do. I needed to be able to say, nah, this is what I'm going to do. And I need to be willing to take that risk and say, hey, if it don't work, it don't work. It's on me. And my mom and my dad both encouraged those things about me. And one of my favorite things about my mom was that she was bold in the mistakes that she made. Like, she was okay with those mistakes. You see, my mom would pick me and my brother up on Fridays, and she would take us to her NA meetings, right? She had an NA meeting. I think it was like uptown Philly. She would take us to the NA meetings with her, and we were sitting there and we would see people sharing and talking about their life and crying and doing all that stuff. If you guys have ever been to an NA meeting or AA meeting, you know what I'm talking about. And she would take us to those meetings, right? Not because she wanted us to get those lessons, because she said she hated doing that, but because she had to go there for herself. While taking us there, I learned a lot. I learned that I don't want to whatever got y'all in this building, I don't want to with it. Whatever that was, I don't want to with it. But my mother, taught me a lot of that. Now, my mom could have been a little rough around the edges, but she was still a very nurturing, loving woman. She's very nurturing and loving now. She'll get on you about some things and she'll say some stuff to you. And another element to my mom that I really, really admire and love, my mom would definitely tell you when she made a mistake. See, my dad didn't tell you when he made a mistake. See, my dad, he'll walk in the room. When my dad realized he effed up, he'll walk in the room and ask you about that video game you want. Like, man, what's that video game you want? Oh, yeah, I want God of War. All right, man, well, get your clothes. We're going to go get it. That's how my dad apologized. My mom, she would do that, but she'll also say, baby, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Right? So those are my 3 biggest childhood influences. I got more, obviously, but those are the 3 that stick out the most to me. I want you guys to comment below. Who are your 3 childhood influences, and how have they influenced you, and how have those lessons still impact you today? Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank you.